Well, on we go. We have finished a full 3 months of our reading program. And in this video, we're going to introduce Unit 14. Now, Unit 14 is going to bring us to the end of the gospel story. And it's going to do that by means of the narrative of the cross. And when we say cross here, we don't just mean Jesus' death, but we mean his death and his resurrection. We mean the total package. And this is the core of the core. This is where everything in the Bible is focused. It all comes together at this point. Now, let's think about some things to watch for as we're reading the texts that are going to be selected for us in this unit. First of all, notice that Jesus knows what is happening to him and what is going to happen to him. He announces it in advance. He even steps into the situations in which these things are going to happen. And he does nothing to prevent any of it. We're going to see how Jesus interprets his death as the new Passover, the thing that brings liberation to his people. And he interprets it as a sacrifice for sins, like the sacrifices that are offered in the temple, really the fulfillment of those things. All that is wrapped up in the Last Supper, as it will be narrated for us. Jesus will not use his divine power to protect himself. You remember from Unit 13 how we talked about Jesus' miracles, and we said, now there's coming a time when he won't do a miracle. Jesus never uses his divine power for his own benefit. This is something that we'll learn about later is important to the meaning of the cross. And so Jesus could come down from the cross, and he's dared to, but he refuses. Now, Jesus' death is going to echo all kinds of themes of the Old Testament. It's going to echo the way that the innocent suffer as they are loyal to God. But God always vindicates them. He may not rescue them in the way that we would expect or want, but he always takes care of them in his way, and he always vindicates them publicly. It's going to remind us of the servant of God, who we read about in Isaiah chapters 52 and 53. This one who is innocent but willingly surrenders his life, who's rejected by his own people, but dies on behalf of their sins so that they can be forgiven, and God gives him his life back again. So what Isaiah spoke of in kind of mysterious terms, we're going to see it work out in real life, in what Jesus does. Now, we're also, of course, we're going to read about Jesus' resurrection, because there's no use to any of this if we don't have that. And we're going to be reminded, Jesus' resurrection doesn't mean that his spirit is still alive after he dies. No, it means much more than that. It means that God, the Father, has made his body alive again, and in a transcendent way, in a way that now transcends mortality. He is now immortal. And in this, God is beginning to take his world back. As sin has corrupted and cursed the world, now God is giving the world new life. He is recreating life as he did at the beginning, but even more so in overcoming death. We'll read about Jesus' ascension, how he leaves life on earth in his resurrection body, but in his resurrection body is then seated at God's right hand. And this signifies the authority that Jesus has over the world even now, an authority that we will see him exercise in a very interesting way when we begin reading the book of Acts in the next unit, but also how we anticipate his return to fully establish his rule on earth. So let's summarize kind of where we're going this way and think about what we read at the very beginning of E100 with the creation story and Adam and Eve. At the beginning, God created the world full of life, but human beings chose death. Adam and Eve lacked divine power. So they rebelled against God to try to obtain divine power for themselves, to use it for themselves. In doing so, they received the curse of death. Jesus, as we're reading here, has divine power, yet he submitted to God the Father and did not use his power for himself. In so doing, he willingly and purposefully died, but God the Father raised him to life, and so he overcame the curse of death for all of us. It's this marvelous reversal of everything that's been in the story, which just is summed up in this. Man, it is great to read these stories and great to realize that we have life from God through our Lord Jesus Christ. So enjoy your reading in this unit.